奶奶说，她最近听到一个关于如何养育孩子的观点，很有趣，她也很认同。第一，要有一个健康健全的家庭；第二，孩子们要接受良好的道德价值观的教育；第三，要接受良好的文化教育；第四，要具有企业家精神，而这一点也是奶奶觉得很有趣、很感兴趣的一个。
I was listening to a man the other day, and he was talking about working with kids, because I was kind of raised like this in a way, but he talked about things that would make successful children, and he said 4 things. One, they need to live in a home with the married parents. And he said, there's something about that. If you're committed to relationships, or now it doesn't mean it always lasts, but or to family, that's helpful for a child. Number 2, there has to be some moral values taught. Like there's got to be some religious or moral teaching. There's right and wrong. And they need to know that from a young age. And the third one was education. Needs to be important in the home. The parents need to model how important it is. And the third one, or the last one, was entrepreneurship, which I thought was interesting. And he said, they need to know they can do what they love to do. They can find things to do that they love to do. They can find the skills to do it. And he says, that's important for kids to know, that I don't have to just be stuck in one thing. You can change and you can learn, but you have to have skills. And so get an education, and then you're free to go off and...
奶奶说，在美国有段时间，人们确实更加关注男孩子们的教育发展，并不是因为重男轻女，而是因为在那个时间，人们更多赋予了男人们去承担养家的一个这样的责任。
There's value more boys than girls.
And I don't know how it is in China, but in America, in this country, for a long time, the value was the education, especially was for boys. Very important that a man would get education so he could support his family, And I think sometimes too, men looked at you were sort of judged on your education too, And I think because my dad, he was so smart. He read the whole encyclopedias every year, all the way through. He always had stacks of books because he didn't get a lot of schooling. So learning, and you did not want to play games with him if you had to know facts, because he knew every fact. And so he really encouraged us all to get an education, to go to school, like my mom. And by the time then I wanted my daughters, they needed to do that. And some did and some didn't. And, everybody's different. He wanted to work with his hands, and one wanted to work with his head. And they all get to do what they want to do, but they have to have some skills. When it was a young country, you had to have both. You couldn't survive without both. The girls were as important as the boys. My dad always said girls were better. Actually, I think here it's much more of an advantage to have daughters, because they will take care of you when you're old.
奶奶有4个女儿，2个儿子。她说她养育他们的方式没有什么区别，都一样。反而她对于女儿们会有更多的要求和期许。
But I'm not sure that I raised them that different. Boys and girls just come different. You don't even have to try to make them different. They are different.
I guess you have girls and boys.
I have girls and boys. Boys had to do just what the girls had to do. They had to know how to load the dishwasher and wash clothes, and their chores were no different. And the girls had to learn how to mow the lawn and weed. They had to change diapers. They had to take care of babies just like the girls, because you have that many kids. Everybody has to do their share. I think that sometimes there is more emphasis on the boys. Make sure you go to college, make sure you get a skill, because you're going to have to work. But nowadays it's both, and they need to be prepared. But I think that girls especially, I just want to always teach the girls that you can do anything. You have to just prepare for whatever, but you need to be prepared that you have a job that you love. You can make enough money that it's enjoyable, and that you have some flexibility. And I always loved a saying that I heard, and a woman said that she loved her husband because he gave her wings to fly, to do what she wanted. And I think that for girls especially, they need to know that you can really do anything. It might be a little harder with the family, but it is not impossible.
It's really good. Like you have to know you can do it.
You can do it, and it's not impossible.
I think if you are really wealthy in your heart, I want to be with my kids.
Yeah.
Even like the life changed, I know if I can go out, I can find a job, no matter what. I support myself.
Yeah. I didn't want anybody else raising my children.
Yeah.
I wanted, if I was going to mess them up, I guess it's going to be me. If I could, if I could be home, and
Yeah.
at least those first few years, I wanted to be there.
Yeah, that's kind of like, I want to see how them
Yeah.
grow up.
I could stay home. And that was, to me, that was a good thing.
Yeah.
But then it was time. I think it doesn't hurt sometimes, especially when they get older, say they're in school all day. If they have to help a little more around the home, if mom works till 5 or something, that's all right, you know.
Yeah.
But just, it's been nice I was grateful I got to stay home.
And dad support you too.
Yeah, Dad's really good.
Yeah.
He doesn't tell me what to do.
You have to tell
I
him
tell him what to do.
我和奶奶讨论了关于孝顺的问题。其实，孝顺并非完全是顺从父母的意志，而更多的是对家庭、对长辈的一种责任和付出。
What do you think like that?
Filial piety.
Have you ever heard?
Yes, it's kind of the devotion to family.
Uh-huh.
I think, especially here in this area, it's very family oriented. They have bigger families.
Yeah.
They do things with families. They have extended families. I think in America, people are very mobile. They do move. That's difficult, you know. And we loved living in the East. But when we thought about retiring there at some point, I grew up away from their grandparents for a while. I was so happy we got to come back closer. We feel so lucky to have our grandchildren close by. Even though if you're not together, that you still remain close. You know, that you...
It's like devotion to the family. But not you ask your kids have to be really listen to you, respectful to you, and it's different.
I hope they will want to take care of me, but I don't want them to. I mean, you always want to. You'll go to your parents for advice. I always appreciate my mom's advice or Dan's parents' advice, but I don't think it's quite as strong. There is a real independence in this country that just came with it. I think
Where did the people here get the independence?
The minute they broke away from England, they weren't going to have anybody tell them what to do. Is that underlying? You're not going to tell us what to do. The government's not telling me. I'm going to make my own choices. And I think that's a little bit, I don't think that's disrespectful to the parents necessarily. People do want to help with their parents. I think sometimes here, though, parents are very independent, you know, but we want to see you and see our grandkids, but we don't want to be a burden and want to take care of ourselves.
Do you like grandmama or grandpa more?
Grandpa.
You like grandpa more? Are you grandpa's little girl? Do you think your mom or your dad influence mom?
Probably dad more. This is kind of
Because you're
natural
more-
for sons, yeah.
Do you think like your education, your mom and dad give you some push or pressure?
Not really. I mean, when I was younger, your schooling is also like suddenly kind of more in your hands and more your responsibility. You still feel like I want my parents to be happy with the results that I'm getting in school, but you like that them being proud of you and hearing, you know, good accolades or getting some awards at school, having a paper published or having good grades. I think it's also just, it's super important for parents to like, they'll be aware that there are maybe some friends or influences that won't be very positive for their kids.
Do you prefer have boys than girls? Do you enjoy the two little girls?
I never really thought of it much, but obviously, like, you know, before we had Chloe, we talked about, I really was hoping we would have a little girl. So, no,
Two girls is enough for us.
you get what you get, and I'm very excited that we have 2 girls. It's awesome.